Welcome to the Growth Room. Today we're exploring one of the most influential books ever written about adapting to change. Who Moved My Cheese? By Spencer Johnson. In this audiobook summary, you'll discover how a simple story about four characters searching for cheese reveals powerful lessons about embracing change, overcoming fear, and thriving in an ever-changing world. Let's be honest for a moment. Change is uncomfortable. It shakes up our routines, shatters our assumptions, and pushes us into the unknown. Yet, it is the one absolute certainty in our lives. Whether we're dealing with shifting career landscapes, evolving personal relationships, or the massive wave of technological innovation reshaping our world, things never stay the same forever. Dr. Spencer Johnson, a brilliant physician and psychologist, understood this human struggle deeply. He noticed that when faced with disruption, people tend to react in predictable, often self-destructive ways. They freeze, they complain, or they desperately try to force the world to revert to how it used to be. To help people navigate this universal friction, he crafted a deceptively simple allegory that went on to become a massive global phenomenon. Millions of copies later, its core truth remains completely unshakable. Our success and happiness do not depend on the stability of our environment, but on our psychological agility, our willingness to pivot when the ground shifts beneath our feet. To truly extract the value from this masterwork, we have to understand its primary metaphor. In this story, we have two main elements, the cheese and the maze. The cheese represents whatever it is you desire most in life. It isn't just food. It is a symbol for your ultimate goals, your sense of security, and your vision of happiness. For a professional, the cheese might be a high-paying corporate title or the stability of a traditional 9-to-5 job. For an entrepreneur, it is a thriving business model. For a student, it's a specific career path. On a personal level, your cheese could be a fulfilling long-term relationship, vibrant physical health, or a deep sense of inner peace. It is the prize we chase because we believe it will bring us fulfillment. The maze, on the other hand, represents the environment where you look for that cheese. It is the complex, unpredictable, and sometimes confusing world we navigate every day. The maze is the corporate landscape, the hyper-competitive marketplace, the university system, or even the messy arena of social dynamics. It is full of twists, turns, blind alleys, and sudden dead ends. It is a place where the rules can change without warning. Dr. Johnson populates this maze with four distinct characters, split into two groups. First, we have mice, named Sniff and Scurry. Second, we have the little people, beings who are the size of mice, but possess complex human brains, named Hem and Haw. Each character represents a specific facet of human psychology and a distinct style of responding to disruption. As we look at them, ask yourself honestly, which one matches your default settings when life throws you a curveball? Let's look at Sniff first. Sniff is an observer. He has a highly acute sense of awareness. He doesn't possess a complex intellect to overanalyze data, but he is incredibly tuned into his immediate surroundings. Sniff represents the part of us that notices change early. He smells the subtle signs of decay before the rot fully sets in. In a modern business context, Sniff is the analyst who notices a slight, steady decline in market demand, or the employee who realizes that a new software automation tool is eventually going to render their current daily tasks obsolete. Sniff doesn't judge the change, he simply identifies it. Right beside him is Scurry, the action taker. Scurry doesn't spend time deliberating, theorizing, or feeling sorry for himself. When a situation changes, Scurry immediately moves into motion. He represents our capacity for swift execution. If the old path is blocked, Scurry instantly runs down a new corridor. He doesn't wait for a perfect plan. He relies on trial and error, moving his feet until he finds traction. In our world, Scurry is the professional who immediately enrolls in an AI prompt engineering course the moment they realize automation is changing their industry. He doesn't complain about the disruption, he outruns it. Then we have the little people who reveal the more complicated, emotionally driven sides of human nature. Hem is the embodiment of rigid resistance. He is deeply intelligent, but his intellect serves as a fortress to protect his comfort zone. When Hem encounters a sudden change, his immediate reaction is denial, anger, and blame. He feels entitled to the way things were. He spends his energy shouting at the walls, demanding to know who caused the disruption and waiting for someone to fix it. Hem is paralyzed by his own ego and fear. In modern life, Hem is the veteran worker who refuses to learn a new digital project management platform, insisting that the old paper and spreadsheet method was perfectly fine, eventually letting the industry pass them by completely. Finally, we meet Ha. Ha is perhaps the most relatable character for most of us. Initially, Ha resists change just like Hem. He gets scared, he clings to the past, and he wishes the world would stop moving so fast. However, Ha possesses a vital trait, the capacity for self-reflection. Over time, Ha realizes that his stubbornness is a direct path to obsolescence. He learns to laugh at his own foolishness, confront his anxieties, and step back out into the scary, unpredictable corridors of the maze. Ha represents the painful but beautiful process of human adaptation, the journey of letting go of what's dead to discover what's alive. The story begins with all four characters finding a massive warehouse filled with their favorite cheese Station C. For a long time, life is perfect. The cheese is abundant, delicious, and seemingly endless. But it's during this period of abundance that the divide between the mice and the little people truly widens, illustrating the danger of a false sense of security. Sniff and Scurry enjoy the cheese, but they never get too comfortable. Every single morning, they tie their running shoes around their necks, inspect the cheese pile, and sniff around the station to check if the supply is diminishing or changing quality. They remain alert, keeping their survival instincts sharp. They enjoy the present, but they never take the future for granted. Hem and Ha, however, fall into a deep psychological trap, the illusion of permanence. Because the cheese is there today, they assume will be there forever. They untie their running shoes and throw them into a corner. They build their entire lives, their identities, and their daily routines around Cheese Station C. They become arrogant. They mistake a temporary stroke of good fortune for permanent entitlement. They stop paying attention to the subtle warning signs. They don't notice that the cheese pile is slowly shrinking every day and that the edges are turning moldy. They are completely blind to reality because their comfort has put them to sleep. Then, the inevitable happens. One morning, all four characters arrive at Cheese Station C to find it completely empty. The cheese is gone. How they react in this exact moment defines their trajectory, and it maps perfectly onto how different people handle modern disruptions like corporate layoffs, sudden breakups, or sudden technological shifts. Sniff and Scurry are not surprised. Because they monitored the situation daily, they knew the cheese was running out. They don't overanalyze, they don't cry, and they don't blame the universe. The situation has changed, so they must change. They unknot the running shoes from around their necks, lace them up, and run straight back into the dark, uncertain corridors of the maze to hunt for new sustenance. But for Hem and Ha, it is a catastrophe. Because they were asleep to the reality of their environment, the sudden absence of the cheese feels like a personal betrayal. Hem screams in fury, "Who moved my cheese?" He demands justice, searching for someone to blame for his misfortune. Ha freezes in shock, his mind spinning with anxiety. They spend days sitting in the empty station, starving, complaining, and hoping that tomorrow, the cheese will magically reappear. They are trapped in a prison of their own making, fueled by a devastating mix of denial and fear. Sitting there in the barren emptiness of Cheese Station C, Hem and Ha quickly become a cautionary tale of what happens when we let our comfort zones morph into psychological anchors. They return to the empty station day after day, expending their precious energy complaining about the unfairness of their situation. They analyze the problem from every angle, constructing elaborate theories about who stole their security and how they might demand it back. But all the analysis in the world cannot change a blunt reality. The station is empty, and no amount of wishing will bring the old cheese back. This is the exact point where many of us get stuck in our modern lives. When a stable industry collapses due to a new automation wave, when a long-term relationship unexpectedly ends, or when a business model that generated revenue for a decade suddenly stops working, our default human response is often an intense, prolonged state of denial. We experience profound emotional resistance because our brains are hardwired to prefer familiar misery over unfamiliar uncertainty. We stay in dying jobs, cling to outdated skill sets, and nurse old grievances simply because stepping out into the unknown feels like a threat to our very survival. But out in the maze, a completely different reality is unfolding for Sniff and Scurry. They aren't paralyzed by emotional baggage. They are busy navigating new corridors, dealing with the daily friction of trial and error. They experience cold days, take wrong turns, and occasionally run straight into dead ends. Yet because they keep moving, their odds of success increase with every step. They understand an essential law of nature. Action creates momentum, and momentum eventually yields results. They don't need a guarantee of success to begin searching. They understand that staying still guarantees failure. Back at the empty station, the physical and emotional toll of stagnation begins to weigh heavily on the little people. They are growing weaker by the day, their bodies depleted by hunger, and their spirits crushed by disappointment. Ha, however, begins to undergo a profound internal shift. He looks at his emaciated arms, glances over at him, who is still nursing a bitter grudge against the universe, and suddenly realizes the sheer absurdity of their behavior. They are doing the exact same thing every single day and expecting a different result. Ha begins to laugh. It isn't a laugh of joy, but a laugh of liberation. The moment a human being recognizes that their own stubbornness has become their greatest enemy, he realizes that their complex intellects haven't protected them. Instead, their minds have merely spun a web of sophisticated excuses to keep them from facing their fears. He turns to him and suggests that they lace up their old running shoes and venture back out into the maze. Him, however, refuses. His identity is too deeply wrapped up in the past. He snaps at Ha, claiming that the maze is dangerous, unpredictable, and devoid of any real hope. He argues that they are entitled to the cheese that was taken from them, and that it is safer to stay put and wait for things to return to normal. Hem's fear has completely blinded him to his own deterioration. He would rather starve in a familiar place than risk discomfort to find a new future. Seeing that his friend cannot be moved by logic, Ha makes a critical decision. He realizes he cannot save him, but he can save himself. He leaves his comfort zone behind, unearths his dusty running shoes, and ties them tight. Before stepping across the threshold into the dark corridors of the maze, he takes a piece of charcoal and writes a message on the wall for him to contemplate. If you do not change, you can become extinct. With that final warning, Ha steps back out into the unknown. Initially, the transition is incredibly terrifying. His heart pounds, his muscles ache, and the dark passages of the maze loom large before him. He begins to question his choice. What if there is no cheese out there? What if he gets hopelessly lost? What if Ham was right all along? But as Ha continues to move forward, something magical happens. The paralyzing terror that had kept him pinned to the floor of Cheese Station C begins to break apart, transforming into a sharp, focused sense of alertness. He notices that once he actually starts taking action, the fear in his mind turns out to be far worse than the reality of the situation. He discovers that the anticipation of a challenge is almost always more painful than the challenge itself. To keep his spirits up and orient his mind toward growth, Ha begins to leave notes on the walls of the maze as he explores. These messages serve as a trail of psychological breadcrumbs, both to chart his own inner transformation and to act as a guide for him, should his old friend ever find the courage to follow him. His next realization is one of the most powerful mindset shifts in the entire book. He stops to catch his breath, looks at the dark path ahead, and writes, "What would you do if you weren't afraid?" This single question is a master key for personal development. Fear is a natural human emotion designed to keep us safe from physical danger, but in the modern world, it rarely deals with physical survival. Instead, fear targets our ego. It is the fear of failure, the fear of judgment, the fear of looking foolish, or the fear of wasting effort. When we ask ourselves what we would do in the absence of that fear, we instantly strip away the emotional static and reveal our true, uninhibited potential. We realize that the only thing holding us back isn't a lack of resources or talent, but our reluctance to tolerate temporary discomfort. As Ha journeys deeper into the labyrinth, he realizes that his physical hunger is being countered by an incredible surge of spiritual strength. He hasn't found a massive pile of cheese yet, only a few stray crumbs here and there to sustain his journey, but he feels more alive than he has in months. He is no longer a passive victim waiting for external circumstances to dictate his fate. He is an active agent in his own life, a hunter tracking down his own future. He looks at a fresh wall and writes another profound truth. Smell the cheese often, so you know when it is getting old. This lesson targets our tendency to fall into complacency. In our modern fast-paced environment, no career, business model, or system remains viable forever without continuous maintenance and adaptation. If you're an entrepreneur, you cannot ignore a steady dip in customer engagement just because your revenue looks stable this quarter. If you're a student or a professional, you cannot assume your current degree or certification will carry you through a 40-year career without the need to upskill. We must constantly monitor our cheese, keeping our eyes wide open to the subtle shifts in our industries, our health, and our relationships so that a sudden disruption never catches us completely off guard. As Ha pushes further into the labyrinth, his perspective undergoes a complete metamorphosis. He starts to realize that the maze isn't a hostile prison designed to punish him. It's a landscape of hidden opportunities. One afternoon, while navigating a completely new corridor, he stops and visualizes himself sitting in the middle of a massive pile of fresh, delicious cheese. He imagines the taste, the texture, and the intense joy of finding it. This act of mental rehearsal shifts his entire neurochemistry. Instead of being driven by the fear of starvation, he is now pulled forward by the anticipation of success. He realizes that your mind can either work as a brake or an accelerator. If you constantly visualize failure, loss, and hardship, your body will freeze up in self-preservation. But if you focus your mind clearly on the reward that lies beyond the struggle, you create an internal engine that drives you through any obstacle. To capture this breakthrough, Ha writes on the wall, "Imagining yourself enjoying new cheese leads you to it." In our modern world, this is the hallmark of a resilient mindset. When an unexpected disruption occurs, like a sudden corporate restructuring or a major industry pivot, the average person immediately fixates on what they are losing. They mourn their old title, their old routine, or their comfortable habits. True leaders and adaptable individuals, however, quickly pivot their attention to what they stand to gain. They see a layoff as an opportunity to finally pursue a more fulfilling career path. They view a sudden technological shift, like the integration of advanced AI workflows, as a chance to become a highly valuable, forward-thinking expert in their field. They don't just accept the future, they actively fall in love with its possibilities. With this renewed energy, Ha runs faster through the maze. He encounters a few more empty stations along the way, but instead of sinking into despair like he used to, he simply accepts the data point, turns around, and tries a different direction. He is learning the art of detached experimentation. Every dead end isn't a personal failure. It is simply valuable feedback telling him where the cheese isn't. He realizes that the quicker he lets go of an old, non-functional path, the faster he can discover a working one. He writes on another wall, "The quicker you let go of old cheese, the sooner you find new cheese." This lesson hits hard when we apply it to modern business and personal growth. Think about major corporate shipwrecks in history. Companies that went under didn't fail because they lacked talent or resources. They failed because their leadership team was emotionally married to their old cheese. They clung to legacy systems, outdated revenue models, and past glories long after the market had moved on. On an individual level, we do the exact same thing when we hold on to old habits, outdated mindsets, or toxic dynamics, simply because they are familiar. Letting go requires immense courage, because it means accepting a temporary period of emptiness and vulnerability. But it is an absolute prerequisite for growth. You cannot grasp a new opportunity if your hands are completely full of yesterday's baggage. As Ha continues his journey, he realizes that his internal world has transformed entirely. He is thinner, his clothes are worn, and he is physically tired, but mentally, he is stronger than he has ever been in his entire life. He reflects on how much time he wasted back at Cheese Station C, trapped in fear and denial. He realizes that the fear he allowed to build up in his mind was infinitely more terrifying than the actual work of exploring the maze. He stops and writes down a truth that everyone navigating a life transition needs to hear. It is safer to search in the maze than to remain in a cheeseless situation. Think about how deeply profound that is. We often stay in soul-crushing situations, whether it's a stagnant job, a toxic environment, or a pattern of poor health, because we tell ourselves that the outside world is too risky or uncertain. We choose the guaranteed, slow death of stagnation over the temporary, manageable risk of exploration. But Ha exposes the flaw in that logic. Remaining in a place where there is no growth, no joy, and no future is the ultimate risk. Venturing out into the unknown might be challenging, but it gives you a fighting chance. It opens the door to serendipity, learning, and renewal. Ha's journey of continuous adaptation eventually pays off in a spectacular way. One day, after turning a sharp, unfamiliar corner, he smells something incredible. His pace quickens, his heart races, and as he rounds the final bend, his eyes widen in absolute amazement. He steps in a Cheese Station Inn. It is the largest, most diverse display of cheese he has ever seen in his life. There are piles of familiar favorites alongside exotic, brilliant new varieties he didn't even know existed. And there, sitting right in the middle of the bounty, are his old friends Sniff and Scurry. Their bellies are full, their running shoes are neatly hung around their necks, and they welcome Ha with a knowing nod. They had been here for weeks, enjoying the fruits of their quick adaptability, while Ha was still busy learning how to let go of the past. Ha dives into the cheese, enjoying a triumphant feast. But as he sits there savoring his success, he realizes that the real prize wasn't the cheese itself. The true reward was the person he had to become to find it. He had transformed from a fragile, entitled, fear-driven creature into a resilient, agile, and self-reliant explorer. He had discovered a sustainable psychological framework for handling anything life could throw at him. He looks back at his journey and decides to summarize everything he learned into a comprehensive change management blueprint. He walks over to the largest wall in Cheese Station Inn and writes down a master summary of his insights, creating a clear guide for anyone who might still be lost in the dark passages of the maze. On that wall at Cheese Station Inn, Ha writes down a complete psychological manifesto that serves as our bridge from the world of a simple story to the complex realities of modern human behavior. He realizes that adapting to change is not an innate genetic talent. It is a clinical framework of mindset shifts that anyone can cultivate through deliberate practice and sharp awareness. To thrive in a world that is constantly shifting, we have to transition completely from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. A person with a fixed mindset views stability as the default state of the universe. When change occurs, they see it as an unfair disruption, a personal attack, or a sign of failure. They use their intelligence to justify why things should remain exactly as they are. This is the classic ham trap. Conversely, a person with a growth mindset accepts that impermanence is the baseline of reality. They view change not as an ending, but as an ongoing challenge to test their resourcefulness, expand their skill sets, and cultivate true resilience. They understand that psychological agility is a competitive advantage. When you step back and look at modern macro trends, the explosion of artificial intelligence, the rise of remote work models, and rapid economic fluctuations, it becomes clear that the individuals who survive are not necessarily the ones with the highest IQ or the most prestigious legacy degrees. The ultimate winners are those who can unlearn outdated concepts the fastest and learn entirely new paradigms on the fly. Let's translate this framework directly into real-world modern applications across different spheres of life so we can understand exactly how to play the game today. First, consider the landscape of career shifts, software development, and the tech sector. Right now, tech professionals are experiencing one of the most intense cheese-moving events in human history due to advanced automation and AI language models. A developer or project manager who behaves like him will complain that AI is stealing their security, cling bitterly to traditional coding methods, and demand that organizations protect their outdated roles. But a tech professional who adopts the Sniff and Scurry approach acts completely differently. They smell the change early. They recognize that while AI can write basic code faster than human, it creates a massive demand for professionals who know how to architect complex AI systems, audit automated code, and connect technology to human business goals. They instantly lace up their running shoes, dive into continuous learning, and integrate these new tools into their workflow. They realize that AI won't take their job. A human using AI will. Next, look at entrepreneurs and business owners. The business arena is a brutal maze where the cheese moves constantly. Think about how digital streaming completely dismantled the traditional movie rental industry, or how e-commerce transformed retail. A business owner trapped in a comfort zone acts exactly like him and Ha did at Station C. They assume their current high-revenue model will last forever, ignore subtle drops in customer loyalty, and become arrogant. To build a truly resilient business, a leader must foster a culture of calculated experimentation. They must intentionally disrupt their own successful products before a competitor does it for them. They look at a profitable quarter and say, "This is great cheese, but let's look for the mold at the edges." What's the next wave? They encourage their teams to monitor market trends constantly, pivot rapidly without emotional friction, and view a failed product launch simply as an instructive data point rather than a fatal blow. Now, let's look at this through the lens of a college student navigating our current educational landscape. For decades, the traditional educational cheese was simple. Study hard for 4 years, get a specialized degree, and secure a predictable, linear corporate ladder climb for the next 40 years. Today, that linear path is practically gone. A student entering the university system today faces massive career uncertainty. If they behave like him, they will coast through their courses passively, expecting their diploma to guarantee a middle-class lifestyle, only to experience deep shock and entitlement upon graduation when they find the job market has completely shifted. An adaptable student, however, operates like Ha. They use their college years to build a robust foundation of meta skills, deep critical thinking, emotional intelligence, data interpretation, and an aggressive habit of self-directed learning. They don't tie their entire identity to a highly specific job title that might not exist in 5 years. Instead, they build a flexible portfolio of versatile skills that can be easily redeployed across multiple industries. Finally, consider personal relationships, health, and fitness. We often treat these areas as static states. We find a partner, hit a specific fitness goal, or establish a lifestyle routine, and then we throw our running shoes into the corner and go to sleep. But relationships evolve, our biological bodies age, and life circumstances change. If you refuse to adapt your communication style as your partner grows, or if you refuse to modify your nutritional habits as your metabolism shifts over time, you are sitting in an empty station wondering why your vitality is gone. We must continuously invest effort, monitor the health of our dynamics, and embrace the ongoing work of mutual growth. Every single one of these modern challenges boils down to a fundamental truth about human psychology. The biggest barrier to our success isn't the external change itself, but our internal resistance to it. We must build psychological safety within ourselves by realizing that our security does not come from a specific job, a specific market condition, or a specific piece of cheese. Our true security comes from our proven ability to navigate the maze. It comes from knowing that no matter how many times the cheese is moved, we have the resilience, the courage, and the framework to step right back out into the corridors and find fresh sustenance. The final stretch of our journey here in the growth room. Now that we have explored the labyrinth, met the characters, and decoded the deep psychological principles hidden within Spencer Johnson's masterpiece, it is time to ground all of this theory into absolute, concrete action. When you strip away the allegory, "Who moved my cheese?" leaves us with a highly practical, repeatable change management framework designed to help us navigate life's inevitable disruptions. Let's do a quick, sharp recap of the core steps you must take the next time your environment shifts. Recognize change early. Don't insulate yourself in a bubble of comfort. Keep your senses sharp, inspect your circumstances daily, and notice the subtle warning signs, the metaphorical mold on the edges of your cheese. Acknowledge and accept reality. Drop the denial. Stop wasting your precious mental energy shouting at the universe or asking who moved your security. Accept the data point for what it is. The old station is empty, and it is time to pivot. Let go of the past. Understand that your hands must be completely empty of yesterday's baggage before you can reach out and grasp tomorrow's opportunities. Your legacy achievements cannot sustain you in a brand new landscape. Confront your fears and take action. Remember Haas's ultimate discovery. The paralyzing terror in your mind is always infinitely worse than the actual reality of stepping out into the unknown. Action is the ultimate antidote to anxiety. Keep moving forward. Treat life as a series of detached experiments. Expect to hit a few dead ends, take some wrong turns, and endure some cold days. Just keep your feet moving, learn continuously, and build momentum until you strike gold. Despite the simplicity of this framework, human beings consistently fall into the exact same psychological traps when a major shift occurs. The most common mistake people make is falling prey to an entitlement mindset. They convince themselves that because they work hard to find their current cheese, they have a permanent right to it. This entitlement breeds a dangerous mix of arrogance, complacency, and ultimate victimhood. Another frequent blunder is overanalyzing a dying situation. Instead of lacing up their running shoes, people will sit in an empty, stagnant environment for months or even years, writing elaborate reports, pointing fingers, and constructing sophisticated excuses for why they shouldn't have to change. They mistake intellectual overanalysis for productive progress. To ensure you don't fall into these traps, let's design a practical 30-day adaptability action plan that you can start implementing in your life immediately. Days 1 to 7, the awareness audit. For the next week, keep a reflection journal. Look honestly at the major pillars of your life: your career, your primary skills, your physical health, and your core relationships. Ask yourself, am I coasting on past momentum? Is the cheese in my current station starting to run low or turn old? Where am I acting like him? Days 8 to 15, the micro comfort challenge. To build your resilience muscle, you have to practice tolerating discomfort. Spend this week intentionally embracing small, daily changes. Take a completely different route to work, restructure your morning routine, try a completely new workout style, or use a new software tool to complete a standard task. Teach your brain that novelty is safe. Day 16 to 22, the skill acquisition sprint. Dedicate this week to learning one single new thing daily that is relevant to the future of your industry. Spend 30 minutes a day reading an automated tech report, taking a short online module, or practicing a new digital skill. Actively seek out the fresh knowledge that will make you valuable in the next version of the maze. Days 23 to 30, the bold leap. Identify one major area of your life where fear has kept you completely paralyzed. Ask yourself Haas's life-changing question: what would I do right now if I weren't afraid? Once you have the answer, take one concrete, undeniable action toward that goal. Submit the application, have the difficult conversation, launch the prototype, or sign up for the course. Cross the threshold and step into the labyrinth. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time with us today here in the Growth Room. If this audiobook summary brought you massive value, helped clarify your mindset, or gave you the courage to face an upcoming transition in your life, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us, which character from the story represents your default setting right now, and what new cheese are you currently chasing? Here at the Growth Room, our absolute mission is to break down the world's most powerful, life-changing books on mindset, productivity, psychology, business success, and personal growth, turning complex wisdom into actionable blueprints for your daily life. As we wrap up this journey, I want to leave you with one final urgent message. The maze of life is completely indifferent to our desire for comfort. It will twist, it will turn, and it will ruthlessly move our cheese when we least expect it. But remember this, you are not a helpless captive trapped inside a labyrinth. You are the architect of your own adaptation. Your security was never inside that old station. Your true security lives in your unbreakable spirit, your willingness to learn, and your courage to step out into the dark corridors and hunt for a grander future. Tie your running shoes tight, embrace the beauty of the unknown, and keep moving forward. Your new cheese is waiting for you out there.